Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aquarius for June 2016. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and check out my blog, what's new on my astrology blog, and all the other things I write about. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what is going on in the month of June? We've got things that are converging, heavy hitters, the outer planets converging. We'll talk about those later. We've got something specific for Aquarius, so let's just take it piece by piece here. Things specific for Aquarius. Early degree placements, so a reminder of early, middle, and late and why we look at this. Early degree placements are basically the January born Aquarius placements, or 0 to 9 degrees if you're watching for your rising sign. And then the middle degree placements are like the first 10 days in February. That's February 1st through around the 10th. And then the late degree placements are from like February 11th through the end of the sign. So I differentiate between these because often the early degree chart will look very different than the late degree chart, and there might be some subtle differences with the middle degree placements. So I want to give you the most accurate information, and that's why I take the time to designate that out. Okay, so the early degree placements. What I'm about to list for you early degree placements, so January born Aquariuses or 0 to 9 degrees for the rising sign, this is coming for middle and later degree placements, but it's most active first for the early degree placements. Okay, and that is a focus on the 5th house. You'll have the sun there, you'll have Venus there. Some of you will have the new moon in Gemini on June 4th there. New openings, new opportunities. The 5th house is all about fun and romance and creativity and children and hobbies and pleasure. The 5th house is ruled by the sun, and the sun rules everything involving children or creative projects from the conception out through the follow through. Okay, so if you conceive of a creative idea, a project, then you create it and then you bring it out into the world. And the same thing with a child. The true love is also in the 5th house. So the true love and then the conception of the child and then the pregnancy and the childbearing and the child rearing, all of that is in the 5th house. So it's going to be lit up. Very often when the sun is moving through, especially when Venus is there, it brings really positive things. And I expect that most of the energy there will be positive. Sometimes the sun will also bring attention to something that has to be worked out, because of the focus there. You might notice, oh wow, I really need to do a better job here with this creative project or with something with a child, or, because the light being there gets you to have a clearer picture of things. And so you might see that you need to have some improvements, or some trouble might come up that the light shows, and then you have to address it. But you've got really good energy around addressing it. So the middle degree placements and the late degree placements, so that's all the February born Aquarius placements, or 10 degrees to 30 or 29 degrees of, for your rising sign. You all will still have very strong focus with the sun and Venus and the new moon. Most Aquarius placements will actually have the new moon in the 4th house. But the early degree placements will still have energy in the 4th house. So for all early, middle, and late degree placements, just for different reasons, the 4th house is a focus for all of you. So the 4th house has to do with your home and family and your upbringing and your ancestry and real estate, because that is home. So anything having to do with home construction, home renovation, home anything, home purchases, home improvement, where you're going to live, anything having to do with home and family is going to be highlighted for all Aquariuses. So lots of questions coming up, lots of information, lots of focus there. When you have a new moon, as we do on June 4th, you can make new moon wishes. And if you want to have some more details about how you can maximize your new moon wishes and other information on how you can use astrological power periods to make your wishes come true, search for my video, Annie Botticelli, Making Wishes Come True, by using astrological power periods. You could just put Making Wishes Come True and it'll come up. But you can focus, if you make your wishes for the new moon around things involving Gemini, which have to do with transportation, communication, the devices or vehicles you use for that, relatives who are not your parents or kids, so like cousins, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers, things like that. stepfamily. Then you can have the new moon wishes go further when you align them with the energy of the sign that the new moon is in. But you can see more about that in that video. So the full moon happens on June 20th, and that happens at 29 degrees of Sag. All of you will have a chance of having that energy happen in your 11th house. The later degree placements have it more likely that it will be in the 10th house, but all of you could have it in the 11th house. The 11th house has to do with, well, first of all, the full moon has to do with completions, things coming to fruition, endings. Sometimes full moons are stressful and they have drama associated with them. But sometimes there's something that comes to fruition and it's like a happy emotion that comes through. So it will be centered around the 11th house, which has to do with friends, social circles, social media, internet-based projects or businesses, teams, humanitarian efforts, anything having to do with a team or a group, something like a community-based project. That's all the energy where this fullness, something could come to a head, something could come to completion. Sometimes recognition occurs at a full moon, so if you're working in any of those arenas, you might have recognition within some of those. The 10th house for the later degree placements, so that's like February 11th through the end of the sign, or like 20 to 29 degrees for your rising sign. That has to do, the 10th house has to do with your career, life, and work. Career, work, and life purpose. So something involving work could be recognition. Very often a full moon in the 10th house brings recognition at work, recognition for your work. So if you have something pending, it could come to fruition then. Also relevant here, there's an amazing lineup at the end of June, which I'll go into here in a minute when I talk about the general transits, that are lined up with this energy of the full moon that could make the culmination even bigger. So these are some of the specific points for Aquarius placements. And now I'm going to talk about the major convergences or astrological events that will affect everybody. I call the theme of the month of June, the heavy hitters converge, because outer planets, when they're locked together in a meaningful geometric combination, are like the heavy hitters. Whenever we have an aspect of an outer planet, meaning the ones that take longer to go around, like Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, or if you're looking at asteroids, Chiron, etc., these planets take a long time to get around. So when they make an aspect, especially to another outer planet that takes a long time to move around their orbits, their influences last for a longer period of time than the ones with the personal planets, unless of course there's a personal planet being retrograde, that's different. But as far as an actual aspect occurring within personal planets, you might feel those effects for a couple of days. But the story of outer planets getting together, that tells a story over a long period of time. It makes me think of when I was growing up in New York City. When I was a little kid, I was a baseball fanatic. Was quite a tomboy, and me and my little friends would obsess over baseball and we'd watch it with my dad, and we would just get so excited when the guys who would be the ones that would hit the ball out of the park regularly would come up to bat. They called them the heavy hitters. And you didn't know if this was going to be a time they were going to hit a home run, but the odds were more likely that they were going to hit a home run than anybody else. Everyone was just, waiting with excited anticipation, especially if there are men on base, And that's the energy of June as it relates to the heavy hitters in the cosmos, because we have two convergences of heavy hitters. The first one is between Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces. Now, this aspect is a square. A square is known to be a challenging aspect. I don't want you to fear squares, however, because sometimes it's a square that we need, or a point of conflict that we need to crack open something up to another level, It's like it's a point of conflict that from it, you can completely improve your life and your life experience. All transits, especially the challenging ones, show weak spots. So this transit will be no exception. Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces in a square, this happened in the beginning part of this cycle. It was the last days of November 2015 through like December 4th of 2015. So the end of November, beginning of December of 2015 is when this happened first. It happens now for the second time, June 5th through June 18th, with the strongest point being on June 18th, but very strong for that whole time. And you'll feel it before those dates and after. It's a long-term story. And it's a theme that's following from the end of last year into this year. And it reaches its culmination like the end of August 30th through around September 21st of 2016. So over the course of the year, from the end of 2015 through almost the end of 2016, there's been this point of conflict. And so themes that came up at that point very likely will either come up again if they hadn't been resolved, or related themes will come up, or maybe different manifestations. But many, many people are going to have this issue come up in the form of security. And many people will have it in the form of internet security. When Neptune, the energy of Neptune in Pisces is very much behind the scenes. It's private stuff. So things that you want to be private, with Saturn coming and making this square to Neptune, they might not be private anymore. So I always post these horoscopes at least a month and sometimes more early so that you can have a heads up for what's coming, so that you can take action. So one of the places that I recommend that you take action here is around this square, and it's around security. So I think it's a wonderful idea for you to change your passwords, to add whatever steps you can to beef up the security, to have a professional do a security check even, or research ways that, if you don't have the money to do that, research ways to beef up your internet security. Be careful of the things you post on Facebook and social media. Just have a new level of awareness of apps and how people are gathering information about you and your what you're doing on the internet, things like that. This could also be home security or work security or anything having to do with things that you want to be private that might not be completely secured. So you want to try to go through between the time you listen to this and then, and strengthen as many of these weak links as possible. That's a really good use of the energy. There are also likely to be a lot of conflicts or things that come up regarding fear and faith. And so here are some questions to ask that can lead you down a good path with using this energy in the best way. One is, and this is kind of along the lines of what I was talking about with security, but where are you putting your trust? And is that well placed? And that can be having nothing to do with internet security. It could be in relationships. It could be with, who knows, whatever. Ask the question, where are you placing your trust? And maybe it's not the best place to place it. Where could you place more trust and you're not? There's also a very major spiritual component to this, because trusting in the benevolent source and clearing up any issues you have with your connection to the divine could be what's coming up here for many people. So maybe you're placing your trust in things that are changeable and movable in the third dimensional reality, and we all know that those things are or always changing, but the connection with the divine is something that isn't changing. So spiritual revolution could occur from this transit for many. Where are your boundaries? Are they secure? Should they be more secure in certain places? And should they be less secure in certain places? Sometimes we're putting up walls in places where we really want something to come in, So this square can bring up all of those things. If you want more love to come into your life, if you want more money to come into your life, figuring out where you're putting up blocks to receiving those things is going to be relevant for many people. Of course, I always love suggesting inner work, because sometimes this boundary setting thing is not in our conscious control. It's very much in our unconscious program. And the only way that you can really get at those unconscious programs is by working on the unconscious level. One of the books that I talk about all the time that works very well for helping you to set healthy boundaries in places where you need them and take some extra walls away in places where you're trying to bring more in, is a book called The Presence Process by Michael Brown. It's masterful for that. So you can look to see where your boundaries need to be bolstered and where you need to be a little bit more lax in certain places, things like that. It's like the showdown between reality and illusion, and form and formlessness. So all the many ways that those conflicts can come up, this story has been brought up at the end of last year for special focus, and the story is getting stronger now, and it will reach its culmination at the end of August into September. So the next major convergence of heavy hitters we have, and this one I'm all smiles about, even though I'm going to make lemonade out of the challenging one and tell you how you can make the most of it when there's a really great aspect like a trine, like this second convergence, which is between Jupiter in Virgo and Pluto in Capricorn. And I'm going to be really excited about that. So Jupiter in Virgo is very much about everything Virgo, expanding everything Virgo. And Virgo has to do with your health, your diet, your regimen, yoga, meditation, medical diagnostics. Many people have had major enigmatic health stories, and they're trying to, like a super detective, get to the bottom of what is happening with their health. And Pluto is the best ally in this because Pluto goes deep into research. Pluto rules research. And Pluto in Capricorn is very practical. So having this trine, which is strongest between June 23rd and June 30th. And again, there's a story with this. It started in mid-October 2015. It happened the second time mid-March 2016. And now it reaches its culmination with this aspect at the end of June. So many people who have been on a wild health journey, you might have some massively good news, or at least massively enlightening news that can then put you in the direction for better health. Many people are going to see movement forward in the arena of health or diet or anything like that. If you are a person who has MS, autoimmune, any other kind of autoimmune things, inflammatory-based problems, colitis, anything involving inflammation, problems with your skin, anything that just seems like whatever you're doing to it, you're not hitting it at all. There's a couple of resources I'm going to recommend for your journey. One is a book called Medical Medium. Medical Medium is a Hay House book, and I'll put it in the link below this video. And it is very interesting. It's very different, and maybe some of you won't resonate with it, but many more people are going to have a lot of answers come here. But he's basically talking about how many of the things that are plagues for our time, from the health perspective, are actually based in virus. And I know that research that I've seen about cancer, they're finding more and more cancers are linked to viruses. So this isn't really very surprising, or metaphysical for that matter, even though the person who brings it is a medium, between worlds. The information is very much based in science from what I've been researching myself. So there could be a viral component to the things that you think are not virally based, and by treating it, you could all of a sudden heal from something that you're not supposed to heal from. Now, of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm offering a resource that could change your life. So check out Medical Medium, Hay House. And another idea is to get some genetic testing. If you've had a lot of problems, you could narrow down your specific issues by having some genetic testing. A basic genetic test that will give you a lot of information and is not as expensive as some of the other ones is called 23andMe. It's the number 23andMe. And this will let you know if you have certain parts of your liver function that don't work, which would create all these other problems. If you have certain liver pathway problems, etc., or other things that could be relevant to your health. There's someone else that I'm going to recommend, his name, and I'll put all of these links underneath this video, and is a man, his name is Gino, and he is a friend of mine who is very gifted with understanding how science and physiology work, and he has helped many people heal from things that were considered terminal. So if you look up genospassion.com or I think it's .com, or I'll put the link below here. Maybe Gino can assist you with your particular situation. He likes to work along with your doctor to see your blood tests and things like that. So many people are going to have good news or breakthroughs along those fronts, and maybe some of these resources will be part of that. What's very exciting about this transit is that it's reaching its culmination at this point. You know, the previous transit we talked about, we're kind of still in the middle of that story, but this one is reaching this conclusion, and it's such a wonderful aspect. So other things that could come up here are things involving pets or animals, since Virgo rules those areas. Also involving your quality of work experience or daily experience. Virgo rules what you do every day, what your experience is like every day. So when you have Jupiter in Virgo, it's working on trying to make improvements in your day-to-day schedule. So if you look at your life and you say, oh God, I need to work less, Jupiter in Virgo can help you with that. If you're like, oh gosh, I don't have a job, I need to work more, Jupiter can help you with that. Whatever your subjective experience of improvement of your daily schedule is, Jupiter is working really hard to help you with that. And as of the time it went direct in May, those things started lighting up again. And now when it reaches this culmination of this, activation with Pluto in Capricorn at the end of June, you could see some major improvements in your work-life balance, whatever you've got going on in your daily schedule. So that's really exciting. Also, many people will experience this trine with Jupiter and Pluto as bringing them advancements on the fronts of work, career, and life purpose. Because Pluto being in Capricorn rules work, career, and life purpose. So Jupiter being in a great angle there can help to accentuate, unblock, free, synergize, bring great juju to your work and career and life purpose areas of life. So that's another way that you might see this trine story reach a culmination at the end of June. Third piece that is very relevant is that on June 29th, Mars is going direct. If you've been listening to my reports for a while, I've been talking about Mars in its pre-shadow retrograde, in its retrograde, and now on June 29th, Mars finally goes direct. It has a pretty long shadow period on the back end. It will be in the post-shadow period until August 21st. But with every day that marches on past June 29th, you're getting more and more clear of it. So if you've got to launch something, do something new, if you've been waiting, July is your month to do that, and the first little bit of August, because then we're going to get into Mercury shadow again, and it's not going to be the time to launch things. There will be some even better stars for launching in the last 3 weeks of October and all of November and the first couple of days of December. That period of time at the end of the year is actually the most open than any we've had this entire year of 2016, because the other period we had, like February, March, and then this one in July into the beginning of August, those all have some influence of shadow, of retrogrades, of personal planets, even though there's some workable ground. So if you're not quite ready to launch, or something, you really want to have all the personal planets clear, maybe you'll want to lean towards that second window, but you'll just have to feel it out, because I don't know what your personal chart looks like, and sometimes personal chart aspects can supersede what the general stars are, So if you want some help with that, anything as far as perfect astrological timing or navigating through making the most of the transits, you can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can check out my growing list of blogs there to assist you. You can check out my personal coaching. You can look for my Unleash Your Money Magnet program to help you unleash your money magnet. If you go to anniehelpsyou.com and then click on programs, you'll see Unleash Your Money Magnet. You'll see my Creating Successful Online Business course that will be enrolling in July. You'll see my Astrology Apprenticeship program, which will be enrolling in July. And you'll see my Shine program, which is a 28-day virtual coaching program, which helps you to make the most of the starry potentials by clearing out your inner blocks. And While you're there, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community and get all kinds of cool opportunities and information that come along with being in that group. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.